Namaskar. Ethics in history of Indian philosophy. Objectives: to give the student of philosophy general glimpse of ethics in Indian tradition, to enable them understand the ethical consciousness of India, and to enumerate various ethical concepts of different Indian philosophical and religious traditions. Introduction: moral consciousness is an undeniable fact of human experience. The moral sensibility is something essential for a peaceful society and work. Even gods are believed to incarnate to restore righteousness and peace in the society. Down through the centuries, many religious teachers and philosophers were in- eh, interested in the rational ground of morality. The caste duties of the Hindus prescribed in the Dharma Shastras are well articulated commands which are meant to regulate the life of the community. Ethics as a speculative science is based on the foundations of the moral behavior of men, but a substantial portion of the moral codes are based on religious beliefs, social customs and traditions. When we take the Indian ethics to the morality is very much based on certain belief, customs and traditions of Indian religions. It is true that the foundation of Indian ethics can be sought in the metaphysical and the theological belief in the form of worship, prayers, and in the form of ideals and principles that directed men's life in the society. When we speak of Indian ethics, we cannot deny the intimate relationship that prevails between ethics and Hindu or any other religion. Ethics and religion are so closely related, and whatever may be the religion, it contains within itself some system of morality for the guidance of its followers, and thus Indian ethics is the indispensable part of Hindu religion and other religions of Indian origin. Indian ethical ideals and principles are very much found in the Vedas and in other Indian literature and in other teachings of the Indian religions. uh, like religion and art, morality also is an institution of life for anyone to adopt in his life. By this institution of morality, one section from the moral point of view might be branded as good or bad, right or wrong, praiseworthy or blameful, etc. And again, by morality, one may be entitled to judge others' action as good or bad, right or wrong. In this sense, morality can be regarded as a particular way of looking at issues of character and conduct. It is in this sense of morality that we talk of human beings as moral agents, but not of animal. We also talk of moral concepts, laws, and principles, etc. For a morally good or morally right life. Morality means consciousness living within the frame of certain principles of conduct laid down by those regarded as authorities. So, in general, morality as an institution of life consists in the awareness of an important distinctions between what is and what ought to be. So, man should live not merely in the light of what is, but also we ought to be. Specifically speaking, morality is the awareness of a living based on a distinction between our animal demand and the demands of higher faculties of human life, which make the human distinct from the animal. Since the ancestor of Hindus in India were spiritual in nature, they fixed their attention on life beyond death. They regarded the human soul inner being as an eternal entity coexisting with the supreme being. They believed that every human soul goes to the round of birth, rebirth, and recap the fruit of actions. When a soul comes to be associated with the gross material body, it is bound to perform certain deeds and in conformity with laws divine, reaps and fruits thereof. The belief is that if good deeds are performed, happiness results, and if evil deeds are performed, misery falls to the lot of the doer. The human soul never dies; it can never remain without doing actions and can never claim exceptions from reaping the fruits of its deeds. The it It reaps at its source. Any man ultimately looks for happiness, which is the fruit of karma, and so he should necessarily know what is good and what is bad. Every lawgiver and every thinker of India in ancient period felt the supreme necessity of framing certain rules of conduct and of presenting the ultimate end to which all the life of a human being is to be directed. In this lesson and Indian ethics, we will be dealing with the Hindu ethics, some ethical notions of Buddhism and Jainism, sources of moral ideals in India. Any human being in the society is called to live and lead a moral life. To read To lead a moral life, he needs certain guidelines and principles of morality to do certain deeds and to abstain from certain deeds. What is the primary source of morality in India? The answer could be the authority of scriptures, especially that the Vedas. After the Vedas, the authority of the Smriti is accepted. So Vedas, Shrutis, and the Smritis, Dharma Shastras of Manu, taken together, have been regarded as the source of morality. Of course, to Vedas and Smritis, the Vedas are regarded as superior in the event of a conflict between the two. The verdict of the Vedas prevails beside Smritis and practices of good people, conscience and reason also play a role in the matters of morality. The inner sciences also is the source and test of morality. This means that even the desire arising out of right will or determination may serve as a source or guide to morality. Right will is to be identified and decided. In recent times, especially in the thoughts of Gandhi and Aurobindo, conscience has been recorded a very important place as giving the final verdict regarding questions of morality and immorality. The very concept of Indian morality is both authority based on social reasoning. Both in Buddhism and Jainism, reason has been given a prestigious place. In Jainism, right faith is given the first place among the three jewels. One is advised to use his reason in ascertaining the validity and worth of the precepts before following them. In Buddhism, too the use of personal reason is neither disallowed nor despised. The Four Noble Truths are to be followed, but even the Buddha says wherever there is disagreement, questions can be asked for removing doubts. In modern Hindu thought, reason is given better place, especially in the ideas of Vivekananda and Gandhi. For them, reason is not the source of moral ideas, but yet they believe in the role of reason in the matters of morality. Hence, the primary role is given to Vedas and Smritis as the fundamental source of morality in Indian tradition. But besides them, all the above mentioned sources also played their roles in deciding the question of morality and immorality in Indian tradition. Ethics, its meaning in Indian tradition. The Indian term of morality and ethics in dharma is dharma. Dharma comes from the root Dhri, which means to hold together, and thus the function of dharma is to hold the human society together for its stability and growth. Right conduct is essential if the human society is to survive. The dharma in Hinduism is coextensive with morality. Dharma in the Vedas refers to the higher truth and power, and it is very much understood as the performer of Vedic sacrifices and other rituals in the Vedas and Dharma. So, dharma is understood in Vedas as duty per excellence. Dharma is also generally understood as the duties of humans according to one's own caste and stage of life. Varnashram dharma. And thus, many Hindu thinkers say if one does his duty, he will achieve either heaven or a better birth in the next life or even prosperity here and now. Thus, the Hindu accept of Dharma has been recognized by its very close association with ritualistic and caste-oriented duties, and the purely moral sense of duty is overshadowed. But yet, the Hindu thinkers advocate and recommend the practice of moral virtues and moral norms, which make a man, man as man. These moral virtues are called sadharan dharma or universal duties. Hence, the term dharma in Hinduism has two connotations. Number one, performance of ritual sacrifices and duties according to one's own caste, and the second is practices of moral virtues and norms. So when we speak of dharma as morality, it includes all the duties one ought to perform and all the virtues he ought to practice to attain moksha or liberation. Ethics in Vedic period. When we speak of Indian ethics, its early beginnings have to be traced from the Vedas, particularly the Rig Veda. One of the central ethical concepts of the Rig Veda is Rit. Rit, the conception of unifying order or moral law, pre- uh, pervading all things. The concept Rit has given given rise to two other important concepts: the concept of dharma and the concept of karma. The concept dharma has got so different and divergent meanings, but generally it is known as duty. The concept karma signifies that there is a uniform moral law governing the actions of men, and the reward and the punishment appropriate to their actions. Rita is the foundation of these concepts. The more important and essential element in the Vedic ethics is that of love and worship offered to the gods in complete submission. Moral order of law is reflected in the right performance of sacrifices, and so one who perform these sacrifices and the ceremonial duties laid down in the scriptures would achieve the goal of eternal happiness in heaven. So the ethics of the Vedic Hindus is primarily a God oriented ethics. The highest goal of life for the Upanishad is no longer happiness as in the Rig Veda, but liberation from bondage to the transitory existence and the reattainment of the inner essence of the soul. The Upanishadic ethics is primarily uh, Atman-centric and intellectualistic. The Upanishads declare that the Vedic scriptures, Vedic sacrifices are totally irrelevant for the realization of moksha, and so man is constantly exhorted to seek his individual liberation and not worry about other social moral obligations. This kind of philosophical individualism definitely undermines the values of social morality. For the Upanishad, the identification and the realization of the self with Brahman is very important. In his in this metaphysical realm, only we can speak of Upanishadic ethics. The oldest Upanishads say that the perfect sage is a saint who burns evil away and he is free from evil. So it is it is in the avoidance of evil we can see the clear moral teachings in the Upanishad. Katha Upanishad declares in 1 to 24 that he who is always impure and is one he who is always impure is born again and again, that he fails to reach the highest goal. Good conduct is very much necessary for the attainment of man's metaphysical good, identification of the self with Brahman, and man who is wise is morally a good man whose nature approximates to the divine model. Katha Upanishad 1 to 24, chapter up 861. So the Upanishads are clear in saying that the man who has wisdom does not sin. He ceases to do evil, and through his wisdom he annuls the evil of his former life. Ethics in Dharma Shastra and Itihas. The Institute of Manu and the other Dharma Shastra are main source book of both Hinduism and Hinduism, Hindu ritualism, and social morality. The Upanishads emphasizes the liberation of the individual, but the Manusmriti subordinates individuality to social structures. Through individual, one belongs to a family and a subcaste, and he is always taken care by the family in which he is, and so the Hindu social morality is relativistic on several counts. Man's duties are accepted to be relative to time, yoga, and place. The duties of a person are also strictly relative to his varna class and the stage of life ashrama. Manu has decreed certain virtues as universal. They are they are contentment, dhairya, forgiveness, shama, self-control, dama, non-stealing, asteya, cleanliness, शौच, coercion of senses, indriya nigrah, wisdom, dhi, knowledge of the supreme atman, vidya, truthfulness, satya, and abstain from anger, akrodha. These virtues are common universal dharma, sadharan dharma, which can be called morality. Thus, the dharma shastras, epics, and the Puranas have their own specific goal, but they seem to share more or less a common ethos from the point of ethics. Way of righteousness in the Gita. The realization of the supreme reality through a life of righteous action is the central, well-knit theme of all the 18 chapters of the Gita. Actions are to be performed with the of realization of the Brahmagyan. To attain the Brahmagyan, one is advised to make a delight search through devotion, renunciation, and self-surrender. For attachment, desire springs from desire, wrath arises from breath comes in infatuation, from infatuation loss of memory and mind, and finally from loss of mind he perishes. So liberation from all kind of bondages is possible only by the realization of Brahma or surrender unto the Lord, or and vice versa. The realization of the Brahman is only through the liberation from all kind of bondages. Actions are to be performed without any attachment to the fruit of actions. This is one of the means of attaining Brahmagyan. Thus, Gita emphasizes book on Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga for the attainment of the supreme bliss. But yet, Karma Yoga is superior to Jnana Yoga. Here, Karma Yoga simply means a mode of realizing the Brahman through devotional meditation on the name of God and the practice of one's own duties without any attachment. One will be blessed with Brahma Yoga, which will lead him not only to moral success but also the infinite spiritual joy and peace. There is another way promoted by the Gita to attain the ultimate realization in life and liberation from the cycle of birth and death, which is known as Karma Yoga, path of activity. The Gita has described this way as the method of disinterested actions, nishkam karma. To attain moksha, one has to be freed from the bondage to one's own actions. So the Gita suggests the golden rule that actions should be done with the spirit of non-attachment to their fruits. Both the epics Itihas have a bundle of ethical and moral codes and injunctions. The practical guidelines of the essential ethical ideals and thoughts of Hindu tradition. Ethical concepts of Hindu tradition. Doctrine of karma. The doctrine of karma states that whatever a man suffers or enjoys in the fruit of his own deed, a A harvest is sprung from his own actions, good or bad, committed in his previous life. Karma is of four categories. Number one, sanchita karma, which means the accumulated past actions. Number two, prarabdha karma, which means the part of sanchit karma. This results in the present birth itself. This is also called predestination. Number three, kriyaman karma, which means present willful actions or free will. Number four, agami karma, which means the immediate result caused by our present actions. Karma simply means actions, and this karma must remind us that what is called the consequence of an action is really not a separate thing, but it is a part of action and it cannot be divided from it. The consequence is the part of the action which belongs to the future, but yet the part is done in the present. Where whatever a man sows he shall reap. Transmigration of soul. The doctrine of karma and transmigration of soul are so closely bound up together. After the death of the body, the life of the individual is continued in another body, and so on in indefinite series. According to this theory, the soul, tough, pure, and blessed in itself, gets entangled in the sansara cycle of birth and rebirth. It is because the karma is passes through innumerable births, transmigration before it regains its original state. Supreme goals, purusharthas, the dominant interest of the Indian thought is in the highest value of human life. There are four values which give meaning to human life. They are called purusharthas. They are as following: the dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma is usually distinguished from sadharana dharma and varnashram dharma. The sadharana dharma refers to the duties of the universal scope and validity. There are 10 cardinal virtues known as sadharana dharma according to Manu: endurance, patience, self-control, integrity, purity, and restraint of senses, wisdom, learning, and truth, absence of anger or non-violence. The Varnashram Dharma refers to the duties of person according to the caste and the stages of life. Thus, dharma is considered to be a means value for attaining personality, a integration in the spiritual level of liberation. The term artha generally indicates the attainment of riches and worldly prosperity, advantage, profits, and wealth. Kama is a comprehensive term which includes all desires ranging from the cravings of the flesh and the yearnings of the spirit. In Hindu thought, there is always a clear emphasis on the enjoyment of specular pleasures, along with the emphasis on the realization of spiritual values. The uniqueness of the concept of karma and enjoyment in the Hindu ethics is that all of them were to be related to the spiritual goal of human existence, and so the Indian ethics insisted on a regular enjoyment. In every school of philosophy in India, the first three Purusharthas are treated as the instrument values, which directly or indirectly promote the Param Purushartha, the highest value of human life, namely moksha. Moksha is also known as by other names such as mukti, apavarya, kaivalya, and nirvana. This liberation is intimately bound up with the karma sansara, the doctrine of uh, transmigration. Swadharma. By this term, we mean each individual has to grow to his best according to his own dharma. That is to say, the principle of individual growth is called Swadharma. Swadharma is in relation to an individual's temperament and stage and duties in life. Based on Varna and Ashram, it is made in terms of three gunas: the sattva, purity, rajas, virality, and tamas darkness. These three qualities are found in each individual in varying proportions, and thus this varying proportion of qualities is regarded as the basis of different types of actions and of forecast. The concept of Swadharma is very much based on these three classifications, and it is well promoted by Indian ethical code that if the society is to function smoothly, there should certainly be a hierarchical arrangement of functions and duties in it. Varna dharma. In Hindu ethics, we find Varnashram dharma as a social stratifications based on above said gunas, profession, and birth. Although theoretically it is justified to have such a classification of people in the name of their propensity and quality they possess in terms of their attitude. Caste system in Indian ethics remains an issue. It has been very much practiced, and all ethical principles and codes are based on it. By way of profession, one's caste is determined in some ways, both in theory and in practice. This looks somehow fine and rationally justified, yet social mobility in the ladder of categories of people is not very much practical, and it is not ensured. Even if a person develops the sattva guna and become a teacher of scriptures, he she cannot become a brahmin for a very reason that he was not born a brahman. Although theoretically Hindu ethics preaches it, social mobility in such practice remains only an utopia. Once birth jati determines everything in caste system. A Sudra is denied of the right of undertaking purif- purificatory rite in the form of an investiture of sacred thread, Upanayan, which is supposed to give a man his second birth. He is not allowed to perform Vedic sacrifices or read or listen to the Vedas. Severest punish, punishments were prescribed and carried out. If a Sudra even dared to recite or had a chance to hear the Vedas, a Brahmin unconditionally deserves the greatest honor and all kinds of gifts. He could not be given any corporeal punishment. He was exempt from the state taxes. The severest punishments were prescribed for the offender of a Brahmin. Hence, Hindu ethics uh, regarding Varna Dharma is still a contested and controversial moral and social code. Stages of life, ashram dharma. According to Hindu thought, the life was divided into four stages or ashramas. That of the brahmachari is studenthood, the student who is bound to celibacy. The second stage is grihasthas, the householder, and the third is banprastha, the forest dwellers, and the last in the sannyasins, the mendicant. A man should pass through these stages regularly, and no man should enter any stage prematurely. A man, after having studies the Vedas or two Vedas or even one Veda in due order, without breaking celibacy, must enter into the householder order. And when the householder sees wrinkles in his skin and whiteness in his hair, and sees his grandson, only then he must retire to the forest. After having passed the third portion of life in the forest and having abandoned attachments, the man wanders as an ascetic, which is the fourth portion of life. This succession is regarded as so important for the due development of the jivatma and the proper ordering of the society. Hindu rites sanskaras. Sacrifices form the central theme of the Brahminical religion and philosophy. The sacrifices not only please gods but also feed them. Through them, the sins are also atoned. The important Vedic sacrifices are the uh, Shruta sacrifices and the Griha rituals. Besides all these rituals, there are many personal or family uh, sacraments known as samskaras. These samskaras are religious act of purification, and they are the ceremonic or ceremony for sanctifying the body, mind, and intellect of the individuals, so that the person may become a full-fledged member of the community. For the performance of these sacraments, sankalp or the mental attitude is the most important condition. The most important samskaras are one, गर्भधारण or conception, punsavan ensuring a male's offering, uh, सीमांतोनयन parting of the hair, जातक कर्म birth ceremony, नाम नामकरण or naming ceremony, निष्क्रमण taking the child out of the house, so it may be the son, अन्नप्राशन the first feeding of the child with solid food, rice in the 6th month, चूड़ा कर्म the rite of tonsure ceremony, कर्ण कर्णभेदम piercing of earlobes, विद्यारंभ beginning of knowledge, उपनयन initiation by a teacher, समावर्तन समावर्तन वर्तम विवाह marriage, अंत्येष्टि or funeral rites. Ethics in Buddhism. The Buddha thought 10 meritorious deeds for us to perform in order to gain a happy and peaceful life, as well as to develop knowledge and understanding. The 10 meritorious deeds are: 1. Charity, number 2. Morality, number 3. Mental culture, number 4. Reverence or respect, number 5. Serving in helping others, number 6. Sharing merits with others, number 7. Rejoicing in the merits of others, number 8. Preaching and teaching the dharma, number 9. Listening to dhamma, number 8. Strengthening one's views. Moral conduct benefits all beings with whom one comes into contact. Mental culture brings peace to others and inspires them to practice dharma. Reverence gives rise to harmony in society. Service improves the lives of others. Sharing merits with others shows that one is concerned about others' welfare. Rejoicing in others' merit encourages others to perform more merits. Teaching, listening to the dharma is important factor for happiness for both the teacher and the listener. Strengthening one's views enables a person to show to others the beauty of dhamma. There are 10 there are 10 demeritorious deeds from which the Buddhists are advised to keep away. These deeds are rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion, and they will bring sufferings to others. These 10 deeds are divided into three sets. Number 1, actions of the body. Number 2, verbal actions. Number 3, actions of the mind. Bodily actions are killing of living beings, stealing, and unlawful sexual intercourse. Number 2, 4 verbal actions are lying, slander, harsh speech, and meaningless talk. Number 3, the other three actions of the mind are uh, covet, covetousness or being desirous, especially of things belonging to others, ill will, wrong views. Buddhist morality judges an action good or bad basing on the intention or motivation from which it originates. If a person performs an action out of greed, hatred, delusion, his action is considered to be bad. On the other hand, if he perform an action out of love, charity, and wisdom, his action is good. Love, charity, and wisdom are known as the three good roots. Hence, the word root refers to the intention from which that action originates. In Buddhism, a person's first duty is to cleanse cleanse him the cleanse him of the mental defilements of greed, hatred, and ignorance. The reason for doing this cleansing is not because of fear or desire to please some divine beings. If this is so, that would mean that the person is still lacking in wisdom. He is only acting out of fear, like the little child who is afraid of being punished for being naughty. A Buddhist should act out of understanding and wisdom. He performs good actions because he realizes that by so doing he develops his moral strength, which provides foundation for spiritual growth leading to liberation. Five precepts telling about 10 meritorious and 10 evil actions. The Buddhism invites the lay Buddhist to adopt five precepts voluntarily to follow in order to live together in civilized communities with mutual trust and respect. Following these five precepts helps the lay Buddhist to make a spiritual journey towards liberation. These five precepts are purely voluntary ones. A good Buddhist should remind himself to follow the five precepts daily. They are as follows: I take the training rule to refrain from killing living creatures, taking which is not given, sexual misconduct, false speech, and taking uh, intoxicating drugs and liquor. The precepts are the basic practice in Buddhism. They are also an indispensable basis for people who wish to cultivate their minds. Without some basic moral code, the power of meditation can often be applied for some wrong and selfish motive. These five refrains is called as Panchasila: kindness and charity. Kindness and charity. The Lord Buddha proposes universal love or metta. By this, Lord Buddha invites one to cultivate a boundless heart towards all being. Speaking about charity, Buddha says that the essence of true charity is to give something without expecting anything in return for a gift. A charitable person should not make other persons feel indebted to him or use charity as a way of exercising control over them. He should not even expect others to be grateful. The act of uh, the act of true the act of true charity leaves both the giver and the recipient free. A real charity must proceed from the whole person as an act of his body, heart, and mind. It should not be an act of generosity, but it should be a dana. When a person performs dana, he gives as a means of cultivating charity as a virtue. It reduces one's craving and his selfishness. Love for animals. The Buddhists are encouraged to extend love for all living beings without restricting only to human beings. Since every living being has a right to exist, so it is not right for us to take away the life of any living being. It is unfair for us to deprive their living rights. If we believe that animals were created by someone for men, it would follow the men were also created for animals, since some animals do eat human flesh. Buddhism says that the destruction of any creature represents a disturbance of the universal order. Man's cruelty towards animal is another expression of his uncontrolled greed. Our own existence on this earth may not be guaranteed if we do not take stern measures for the survival of other creatures. Jaina ethics. Like Buddhism, Jainism also rejects Vedic ceremonialism and sacrificialism, and also it takes ahimsa to be the most important ethical virtue, and consequently denounce the Vedic sacrifices. In the observance of ahimsa, Jainism rather surpasses even Buddhism. In the observance of ascetic rituals, also Jainism goes further than Buddhism, especially in the case of monk. The the Panch Mahavratas and Three Ratnas from the ethics of Jaina tradition, right knowledge, right faith, and right conduct are known as the Three Ratnas or the three gems of Jainism. Right knowledge is the detailed cognition of the real nature of ego and non ego, which is free from doubt, error, uncertainty, etc. It can be obtained only by studying carefully the teachings of the omniscient Tirthankaras or teachers who have already obtained liberation and therefore are fit to lead others out of bondage. Then that preliminary faith should be supported by right knowledge. Again, for having right faith based on general acquaintance, Samyak Darshan. In support of right knowledge, right faith does not imply that one must blindly follow the Tirthankaras, but one must have the right attitude of respect toward truth. Further, by studying the teachings of the Tirthankaras, one can strengthen his belief, but these two are rendered useless unless they are followed by rigorous practice. Right conduct is the third indispensable Samyak Charitra conduction of liberation. It is this that enables one to stop the influx of new karmas and so to eradicate old ones. It consists in the control of passions, senses, thought, speech, etc. A right conduct is therefore described as refraining from what is harmful and doing what is good. Right conduct enables man to liberate himself from bondage. The the Jaina prescription for right conduct, one must follow the five great vows, namely the Pancha Mahavrata. For the perfection of right conduct, they are ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharyam, and aparigraha. Ahimsa denotes a- abstinence from all injuries to life, either trasa or sthavar. Satyam is abstinence from falsehood. It is speaking what is true, good, and pleasant. Asteya refers to ab- abstinence from stealing. Brahmacharyam pertains to abstinence from sensual and causal pleasures. One must refrain himself from karma of any form altogether, either in speech, talk, or action. Aparigraha, by this, what is meant here is that uh, abstinence from all kind of attachment. It lies in giving up attachment for the objects of five senses. Let us sum up. We come to know that the Indian religion, philosophy, and morality are so integrally related, and it is impossible to understand morality without a proper understanding of the religious and philosophical traditions in India. Ethics in India is a complex and multifaceted one, being constituted of divergent and several religious and philosophical traditions. This diversity of metaphysical beliefs and valuation attitude is reflected in Indian morality, which is diverse and multifaceted as the rest of the Indian culture. But however, we must not have any impression that there is neither any specific world view or ethos or nor any definite moral code which can be called Indian as such. Indian tradition has been receptive to new ideas and values, but yet it has been choosing certain ideas to be incorporated in its religious moral thought. Hinduism also accepted the fact that man's dharma, comprising of all his duties and virtues, changes with the changing times. Hindu religious culture is very composite, so we need to choose those aspects of Hindu religious culture which are most in harmony with our modern values, and we also need to frankly reject other ideals which are not in harmony with modern values. From all these that we saw above, we can conclude this lesson on Buddhist ethics basing our concentration on the urgent call of Buddhism to the modern world today. Buddhism calls for tolerance in the world today so that peaceful coexistence among the people can be possible. The Buddha's advice is let us live Let us live happily and not hating those who hate us. Let us live freely from hatred among those who hate us. Let us live happily and be free from ailment. Let us live happily and be free from greed among those who are greedy. Dhammapada. Buddha says if a person falls if a person foolishly does the wrong, I will return to him the projection of my boundless love. The more evil that comes from him, the more good will go from me. I will always give off only the fragrance of goodness. Thank you.